Hello, everybody. Welcome to the long-awaited edition of Rumors versus Facts. We didn't have a show last week, and we had this one delayed a little bit, mainly because all these guys you see on the screen here have been on the road. Even my old butt got out there and wanted to see a kid. But Jed and Lance have been doing yeoman's work, traveling all over the state, all over the Southeast to see a bunch of kids. And that is where our priority is. Our priority is getting stories for the folks at ugasports.com. You should be a member there. It's only 27 cents a day. We're giving away free stuff all the time. We've got a bunch of Masters gear we're giving away over there today or this week. But our point is to have updates. Our point is to have content. We like doing this show, but we don't want to give away everything on this show that we have behind the paywall at ugasports.com. And the best way to get good content and scoop and updates is to go see these kids in person. And that is what our guys have been doing. They're road warriors, and I love the fact that they're burning the rubber off those tires. And Lance is probably going through yet another vehicle. So
yeah,
dude's got bad luck with cars. It's just he's cursed. And we can't have Paul on the show because Paul drives too damn slow. So we never get an update if we waited on Paul. So I know he's watching, which is why I dig the knife in a little bit.
Paul's got a new truck too.
Yeah, he does. He does have a new truck. He's also Paul's the real story is Paul's expecting the birth of another child, so that's why he can't be on the road as much as everybody else. But we love it when he does. And let's get right to it. You guys want to see Thomas Blackshear, okay?
Yep.
There's some news coming there. Tell us what's going on.
He is. Saw him last Tuesday at Calvary Day in Savannah, and earlier this week he posts a cryptic tweet that says May 12th. And Jed did some investigating, talked to Travis, and said that he is going to be committing on May 12th. So this is a big one to watch because it is pretty much a race between Tennessee and Georgia right now. Those are his top two schools.
Oh, well, where's it going?
It's interesting that it's Tennessee and Georgia because I think those are the top two for Travis Smith as well out of Westlake, who I saw today. Two very different styles of offense, but the school Georgia's going head to head with for a few of these guys. But to your question, Roddy, I think he's going to Georgia. I think, Lance, when you talked to him, he was very high on James Coley, the job he had done, building that relationship with him over the past couple months, making him a priority. And we, to be honest with you, we weren't exactly sure where he stood just because there's so many top guys. Yeah. George going after a receiver between Travis, Wiley, Taylor, Javen Boggs. You've got guys like Eugene Hilton, Sam Turner. About last time we were on the show, Tyler Williams. There's so many studs out there that we weren't sure exactly what the pecking order was. But in asking around about Thomas Blackshear, he's got a spot if he wants it from everything we've been told, and I think that spot is going. Oh, look at the onside. Yeah. You don't see many onside kick highlights in these huddles. That's a good one. But I think that spot in Athens will be his on Sunday. Sunday, Mother's Day. But like you said, Lance, Tennessee is going to give this one a run down the end.
Yeah, he played with Jake. He was at Calvary Day his first 2 years and then moved over. Or not Calvary Day, Benedictine, moved over to Calvary Day. And he played football with, I believe it's new Tennessee quarterback. I think he's a freshman, Jake Merklinger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pronouncing that correctly. So I believe. So he basically told me straight up that's the reason that he obviously likes Tennessee. He has a relationship with them, but it helps that his quarterback from last year is there. And Roddy's watching these highlights.
I'm watching them. I'm just elevating. This kid's awesome.
For those of you that listen to this after this, man, he's electric. And I talked to his head coach, Mark Stroud, at Calvary Day after, and he said there's not a better kid than Travis. They said he could play at either side of the ball. I believe he plays defensive back for Calvary Day as well. And he said he's a D1. He's a D1 athlete if he's ever seen one in his life. So 6'2", 190. He may be like 6'1". I think 6'2" is a little, but I mean he's still electric.
A lot of those are self-reported heights.
Yeah.
You remember? I know Roddy does. You remember JJ Holloman's? What's happening? What are we doing here?
Oh, I did that the other day.
On video for
Well, look, hey, you guys have convinced me to put in my future cast, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Reason, guys convinced me.
Monitoring the show.
No, I mean, hey, if I've got 3 guys on my staff that say, hey, I think he's going to Georgia, well, the trick of being the publisher is like, okay, you guys, you drove all the way to Savannah to talk to him. If you think he's going there, then I'm going to put it in there. So
you remember, I know Roddy does it, JJ Holloman's recruitment, where he was always ranked lower. He was always ranked like a 5.7, 3-star. Maybe I think he got up to maybe a 5.8 non-ranked 4-star. It just reminds me of on film of watching his tape. Like he's just electric with the ball in his hands. The gripe in high school was he doesn't catch the ball good enough, and I never saw that out of Holloman. Every time I saw him play, he was electric. I mean, he was he could win one-on-one battles. He could go. He could be a possession receiver, but he could also be dynamic with after the catch. This is a guy that reminds me similar of watching him on film. Similar skill set from a high school standpoint. So I know somebody said, I think it was one of y'all, Jed or something, that Coley said he could be next AJ Green or something like that. But I think he's definitely draws comparison to me from what JJ Holloman was in high school. Just an electric athlete when. It can win one-on-one battles, can high point the ball, can you can throw him fades. What they would dream of in Georgia's offense.
Yeah,
those clips look great. The kid can play. And here's the thing: I've spoken to James Coley on multiple occasions. Haven't really had a chance to speak to him since he's come back, but I remember I don't call it disdain, but he says, "Look, you guys have your rankings. You're good at what you do. We have our rankings. You're looking at players, you're comparing wide receivers to defensive tackles, to quarterbacks, to safeties to get your, 1 through 50 in the nation." He goes, "We go by position, and this guy needs to be a tall receiver. This guy needs to be, a speed receiver. This guy, I'm simplifying it because a lot of it was over my head, just the way that James Coley is a tactician and what he does. Same if you talk to Todd Hartley when he talks to you about tight ends, or Mike Bobo or any of those guys. What Stacey Searles wants in a safety, a guard versus a tackle versus a center, they'll forget more than we'll know. But if this kid's been given the go-ahead to commit to Georgia under James Coley, the man can coach receivers. There's no question about it. So I think this is a big pickup. But I want to switch gears though and ask you, what about this guy then?
Yeah, CJ Wiley was at Alpharetta, now is at Milton, and I saw him on last Wednesday or Thursday, and he was very impressive. I mean, he's filled out. He used to be just a tall string bean of a receiver. He's kind of filled out a lot more. He's a big body. He's Blackshear was listed at 6'2". Wiley is easily 6'2", 6'3", pushing 6'4" if he hadn't had a haircut in a while, maybe.
Biggest kid on the field up there in some of these clips.
Moves so effortlessly going down the field. When I was there last week, he had one where obviously it's practice, but he lined up on one side and it was like a real deep cross, I guess, and he went all the way to the other side of the field and tracked the ball down and hauled it in. So moves great route runner, plays good competition at Milton, in practice every day, and then I guess was 7A going to be 6A Georgia football. So when I spoke to him last week, it's Georgia. Georgia's getting an official visit. It's I think that June 14th, 16th weekend. USC's getting one. LSU is getting one, and LSU is a contender. His parents both went to LSU apparently, so that's a big kind of wrinkle. And what was it? Florida State maybe are getting officials. LSU was there the day I was there. So, but yeah, I like where Georgia's at with him. He trains with Terrence Edwards, which certainly doesn't hurt Georgia's case for sure. And yeah, Georgia's been prioritizing him. I think they've got a good shot to land him as now heading into official visits next month.
I love the kid. To me, he's that different body that he would be a great compliment to Blackshear. I could see both of them in this class. I could also see Travis Smith. We'll talk about him next. Trent, give me your thoughts on CJ Wiley and kind of how he is the yin to Blackshear's yang, if you will.
Yeah, he's just a guy that Georgia hasn't. You look at Georgia's receivers over the past couple of years, and they've really missed the tall guy. That I think that's one of the reasons why they went.
Cornerback. That feels rude.
I think that's one of the reasons why they went out to the transfer portal and got Colby Young, because they're just missing that type of body, and they haven't had that type of receiver. You had Ladd McConkey playing outside some. He was in the slot. Then you got Dominic Levitt playing outside some and in the slot. You just have those smaller type receivers, and they've had to build around those receivers. But this is just a different type body and something that they have not been able to land on their recruiting trail. They've went to the transfer portal. They've got a couple of receivers like that. But Ra-Ra's playing outside, and he's 6'1". So just having that capability, that type of receiver to throw those fades, because that's what they like to do in the red zone. You've noticed, especially, they like to throw those fades in the red zone. They really haven't had those type of receivers to do so. And you saw what that type of receiver can do in the G-Day game with Colby Young going up in the one-on-one battle and winning that for a touchdown. So he just brings a dimension that Georgia hasn't had on the offense, and just adding another weapon like that on the outside is a great thing. And I said before the season, if Georgia can land Travis Smith and CJ Wiley, their wide receiver recruiting is in good hands in this class. And if you add a Blackshear and maybe another guy in that mix, you've had yourself a top tier wide receiver class.
I like it. I really do. All right, you said the name, so we got to bring him in there. All right, Travis Smith Jr. I know you guys want to see him. What's the latest on Travis Smith Jr.?
Yeah, saw Travis today. Auburn was there today as well. Auburn receiver coach Marcus Davis. But Smith's another guy who has added, has bulked up a little bit. He's got that same big frame, probably not quite as tall as Wiley, but another big body to add. Loves James Coley, the relationship. It was one where he admitted, I guess it was the Under Armour camp, that Brian McClendon leaving hurt Georgia some. He felt it when McClendon left, but James Coley's done a fantastic job of building that relationship back up. He's like, we're talking about clothes, we're talking about food. We're both big Italian food guys, so he's always eating pizza and stuff when we're on the phone. So it's Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, and Auburn, I think, are getting the officials. I think it's between Georgia and Tennessee, like we were talking about with Thomas Blackshear earlier, and it's going to be close. I would give the edge to Georgia right now just because of the relationships, what the job James Coley has done. And I think you look at the two offensive systems, Georgia has proven, hey, you can get to the NFL if you play here, because obviously Ladd McConkey just did it, went with a 8th pick or whatever it was in the draft, so almost first round as a 2-star, 3-star or whatever. So, Georgia and Tennessee. Georgia's got the first visit. I believe, if I remember right, what he told me, Tennessee's got the last visit. And then a commitment will be coming shortly after that. So I would give Georgia the slight edge right now, but it's a tight one going into officials.
All right, so that's with Travis Smith. Let's back up real quick to CJ Wiley. Who is that down to? And because we kind of talked about with Thomas Blackshear and Travis Smith, what they were thinking about the kind of the teams in the running for CJ Wiley and kind of where we think somebody leads for, or what's he thinking? What was your impression after seeing him?
Yeah, he really, really, really likes Georgia and has for a while. And it's him and Travis Smith are close. So if one domino falls, the other could potentially come with it. And Ethan Barbour, the tight end commit, is very close with both of those guys. They've all kind of known each other for a while. Barbour and Wiley, I guess, were teammates when Wiley was at Alpharetta. So their relationship dates back then. So it's Georgia, USC, what did he say? LSU and Florida State, maybe, for Wiley. I would say it's you worry about LSU with the family connections there. Mm-hmm. But I'd probably give Georgia the edge there too, which again, it's crazy to say because the narrative is Georgia can't recruit receivers. Georgia can't recruit receivers. And then you could have Thomas Blackshear on board on Sunday. And then to say they would lead for these two guys, I would say they would lead for Taylor as of today. And then, like you said, you got all these other guys that are working on Jalen Boggs. There's Sam Turner, who's a stud. There's Eugene Hilton, who's a stud. Like the spots are and will continue to fill up quick. And it could for once actually be a case of you've got more guys who would want in / you could get than you've got spots available, because there's a ton of talented guys in 3 spots, maybe 4 spots.
Yeah, you better get your spot now.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why Blackshear's committing Sunday.
Yeah, it could be. It very well could be.
That's
I mean, if you pick Georgia, that's going to be in the back of my mind. Is like, look, they've got 5 other guys that can pull the trigger.
That's one that kind of Blackshear kind of came out of left field, because we've talked about the last couple months, talked about Wiley, talked about Travis Smith, talked about Eugene Hilton a little bit. Blackshear I felt like Georgia was pursuing him back in the fall, and then we just didn't really hear his name a lot. And when I went to go talk to him, I asked him straight up about Georgia, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I love Georgia. That's one of my top schools." And I mean, him and I talked. Jed, you watch an interview for like 5 or 6 minutes, and that's literally all we talked about. We talked a little bit about him and Merklinger, going to Tennessee. But I mean, he said that, and this is Blackshear, said that Coley was one of the first guys to contact, or he was one of the first guys I think Coley contacted. And Wiley said that as well to me at that 7-on-7 camp, and that same day up in Emerson. Travis Smith said that as well. So seems like these are kind of in the pecking order 1, 2, 3, whichever way Georgia has them.
All right. You mentioned Ethan Barbour. I love the story that you guys had on him, where Ethan's basically taking responsibility for the recruiting class. You kind of need that Richard LeCount guy, that drum major, if you will, just directing the class, bringing them together, saying, look, this is what we're going to do, hitting them up. And that's kind of the vibe I got from Ethan Barbour. Is like, look, I'm going to Georgia. I'm going to bring Elias Williams with me. I'm going to try to go get Isaiah Bond. I'm going to try to get Juan Gaston. I'm going to get everybody, and especially the wide receiver group, because those are the guys I'm going to be catching passes with, in our 7-on-7 drills, pass Skelly, guys like that. So what's the latest on Ethan Barbour?
Yeah, he's the personality of the class so far. Him and Bo Walker, Walker got a little bit of in a different way, but he's got a personality too. And Barbour was like, yeah, Barbour, I don't know how you say it. Barbour, I guess.
Ethan.
Yeah, Ethan, exactly. And he was interesting because he was talking about Brock Bowers going to the draft, and he was like, yeah, I play like Brock Bowers, and it's amazing to see that, a guy with that kind of body type could go, 13th in the draft, and you don't have to be necessarily a freak at tight end. I was like, well, let's not sell Brock Bowers short. He's a pretty impressive guy, but I think Brock measured at like 6'3", 240 at the combine, and Barbour told me he was 6'3", 232 or something. Like Brock had about 10 pounds on him, and height-wise they were the same. So again, when you see that and you look at Darnell Washington is a freak show, and Elias Williams is a freak show. It's not necessarily Barbour is not necessarily that kind of body, but it's still a very good tight end, and he knows, hey, under Todd Hartley's coaching, I can get to that first level or first round level of talent. So a guy, he's taking a couple official visits. Auburn is one, and he was real.
There goes. It's 10 times.
But yeah, so I don't see a world where he flips personally. I mean, he committed really early for a reason, and Todd Hartley usually doesn't lose the guys when he gets them under his wing there. So, but yeah, he's like you kind of mentioned when we brought him up, right? He's got that leader role in this class down pretty good by now.
Yeah. Although to be fair, that's what I thought Dylan Raiola was doing. So
that's true.
He was the Pied Piper of that class, calling guys, but you never know how stuff like that's going to work out. But you mentioned freak, and I gotta bring up the next freak. This is Isaiah Gibson, committed to South Carolina, 6'5", 240 pounds, strong side defensive end. The pictures, Lance, the video.
Yeah, he's
that looks wrong.
See, dude, he's a grown man.
he literally looks like a grown man playing on an 8th grade team.
Yeah. And they had some other big guys too, but I mean, I pulled up to Warner Robins, I parked, I'm walking down, I'm looking like, hey, where's the defensive lineman? I see the defensive lineman. Oh, that's got to be Isaiah Gibson. I didn't even have to look at the Max Preps roster. I was like, that's Isaiah Gibson right there. And it was.
So he's committed to South Carolina. He's committed to Southern California. They're both USCs. So why'd you go see him? What's the point of that? He's committed elsewhere. We know that kids never flip.
He kind of left a lot out. If you read my note on the bin, he kind of left a lot out there on the table. Basically said that the Georgia coaches like Justice Terry, they remember Terry flipped the same day that Gibson committed to USC, and they're both kind of head scratchers. And I just straight up asked him, I was like, did the Georgia staff contact you? They contacted Justice. He said Kirby was like the first one to text, the first coach out of any college to text him. And then he said, like clockwork, throughout the day, he heard from outside linebackers, Coach Chidera Uzodiribe, and a few other members of the Georgia staff. And he said there was no pressure. It was just kind of like, hey, man, we're going to be in this till the end and until the ink dries. And he liked that. He spoke very highly of the staff. And I think this is one that's like Terry's. This is gonna come down to the wire, I think. And I mean, he's certainly wanted in this class, I think. And yesterday I got to see Juan in person, and man, it's just not fair. It's just not fair. And I mean, Warner Robins is a good football program. They have some big kids, but he was just tearing up. They were doing ones on threes yesterday. So he was going up against like the 8th graders. He was just bullying them. He was bullying the second team offensive line, and he was doing the same with the first. So
that reminds me of
something.
something.
Right tackle in half.
Yeah.
That reminds me, speaking of the blocking, I asked the coach at Westlake, Morris Mitchell, about Travis Smith today. And I was like, hey, what's he like blocking? And he was like, so they ran kind of like an Oklahoma drill. It was two linemen, 2 defensive linemen, and then a linebacker and a running back. But there was a receivers and DBs version of this happening on the side. And he was like, when he could be just, we go to the backfield to get the ball, he gets down on a 3-point stance wanting to block somebody. So if you're going to be a receiver at Georgia, that's the mindset you've got to have. And Travis Smith has got it, apparently.
I can see Kirby Smart's kind of cartoon heart pounding out of his chest. Mm-hmm. He loves that. All right, Trent, is this another Christian Miller commit to USC, stays committed for a while, then flips to Georgia?
Yeah, I don't have as much confidence in him as I do as a Justice Terry. But at the
that's fair. I mean, that's why I ask your opinion.
Yeah, at the same time, I do think Georgia is going to be in this mix to the end. Georgia was a school that you heard about leading up to the commitment of USC, just the random commitment. You didn't hear much of USC, just like you didn't hear much with Justice Terry of USC. It was more Georgia, Alabama, scout teams like that. And then all of a sudden USC popped up that weekend and landed 800 guys in this recruiting class. But I think Georgia's going to be in it to the end. I think there's several other schools going to be in it to the end, but this is a guy that Georgia's really missed out on, recruiting classes. When you look at the edge, they did land like Damon Wilson, they landed some guys, but Georgia's had a depth problem at this particular position. I remember when Kirby just came on and they were playing Lorenzo Carter and Davin Bellamy both at outside linebacker, and they were really getting after the passer. You know, I remember the Notre Dame game and stuff like that. But Georgia really hasn't had those guys. They've had nothing against Chaz Chambliss. Chaz Chambliss can, you know, take on blocks and really be a good run stopper, but he's not an elite pass rusher. And Georgia's really failed to land those guys. And I think this is the guys that you have to land to get to that next level of being able to rush the passer, not having to, you know, disguise those blitzes as much, and just being able to get to the passer with 4 guys. I think Mike Hill lining up on the outside is going to give Georgia a boost in that department. But this is definitely a guy that Georgia's going to be on to the end, and I think it's worked out very well for Kirby Smart in the past when he's wanted guys like this particular prospect. He's been able to get them, even if he don't get them the first go around.
That's a good point. You got to be thinking more than just that first year. I get that. And you're right. I mean, you had the Adam Anderson for a while, you know, but when's the last time a Georgia player led the SEC in sacks from the edge?
I mean, I feel like the past couple of years that they've had an inside linebacker lead the team in sacks. I mean, a few years ago, I think Channing Tindall was the guy, and then you had Dumas Johnson led them in sacks, or was right there at the top of the leaderboard in sacks. So I think it's. I
wonder will probably be the guy this year.
I think Adam Anderson was on track before all the issues of leading the team in sacks, but I can't remember the last edge guy that they had that led them in sacks, going back to like Davin Bellamy and Lorenzo Carter in those days. So they really haven't had that guy that they can just put on the edge and say go, beat your guy one-on-one, go. And I think in the past they've had. When they had Lorenzo Carter and Davin Bellamy, they had 2. So you couldn't really shade them. You could shade one of the guys, but you couldn't really double on both. So, they've had those defensive tackles, but I think getting, elite edge rushers will take the pressure off of the defensive tackles to have to, handle those double teams on every single snap.
Would be fun to see him, but I'm with you. It's I think they stand a better chance with Justice Terry, but again, man, you never know. Speaking of Southern Cal, when I was out actually seeing Justice Terry, they showed up and they were like rolling 5 coaches deep. They are trying hard in the state of Georgia. They are spending a lot of time on this coast instead of the West Coast because they know, hey, this is where all the players are. Speaking of players, speaking of really good ones and guys that who were rumored at one point to be looking elsewhere, but so far right now, I don't think this guy's going anywhere. You went to see Elias Williams there, Lance. This is an absolute, we mentioned the term freak earlier. I hate, to me, freak is overused, but hey, with Elias, you can use it. Monster kid, 6'8", 230 pounds. Right, let's say that's a little overhyped. 6'7". But Elias is something special.
I think he's probably about 245 now, from 245, 250. He's gained a little bit of weight, a little bit of muscle since basketball season. But I mean, he was one of those guys that, when I went to talk to him back in the fall down there in Camden County, the couple of days before Georgia, Florida, everyone was kind of like, what's going on with Florida State? They're kind of courting his mom.
Yeah, they were.
And Elias just said straight up that's kind of cooled off. Miami's been a little bit more of the team to worry about. I think John Garcia posted on our board after I posted the note. One of our national guys said that regional guys said that he visited Miami, I guess twice, I think in either March or early April, and for like 2 weekends in a row, I believe. And then everyone thought he was going to flip. And then, when I asked him about it, he was like, it's just Georgia right now. It's all about the dogs. And he's kind of like Ethan Barbour, fellow tight end commit. Jed just talked about just trying to build this class. I think Elias has been on campus twice this year. He was there for junior day. I don't know. It was either January or February. And then he was also there for G-Day. And he said that he spent a lot of his time just kind of hanging out with Ethan and kind of hanging out with Bo Walker. I don't know. Bo Walker wasn't there. I think it was another commit, and just trying to talk to some of these prospects and kind of get them to join them.
This kid is fun to watch.
Yeah.
I'm listening to you kind of in one ear, but the rest of the time I've watched his highlights like 6 times. But
we'll see. It's what's wild is these highlights right here, when he was at Charlton County, and now he transfers over to last year he transferred over to Camden County, and that Jeff Herron offense ran a wing tee, but I mean he still had a bunch of catches, and I forgot what playoff game it was. They were down by like 20 points, and I think it was like the second or third round, and they just went up. They just started throwing the ball to him, and he's so much taller than everybody else. And this year he told me with Coach Herron retiring and this new guy coming in from Florida runs I think a spread type offense. He's looking to get 1,000 yards this season.
I can see it happen. He's we're watching his 210-pound highlights, not his 40-pound highlights.
Yeah, the screw it and throw to the guy that's better than everybody else offense is usually a fairly decent idea in my experience. It was the same thing with Lawson Lucky. Like I would go see Lawson Lucky games and he wouldn't have done anything. I remember one game they were, like you said, Lance, they were down 10 points with a minute and a half left, and they Norcross threw him 3 straight like jump balls in a row, and it caught all of them. I was like, why have we not done this at any point in the past 3 hours when you're not doing anything on offense? But
yeah, that game last year, I went to see Cortavius Johnson. Like, we're getting our butts kicked. Let's put him at quarterback and just let him run an option. Oh, hey, let's put him in a defensive end and go get a strip sack.
Yes.
When you have a D1 player, and I mean top 50 D1 player, especially a skill guy, it's just because you can run away from a defensive.
Have to make it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah, it's not complicated. Don't get fancy. Give it to the 6'8", 240-pound guy. Let him get you.
For real.
Speaking of 6'8" guys, Juan Gaston Jr., 330 pounds out of Westlake, big offensive tackle. We've seen him a few times. Juan's a big boy. What is the latest on Juan Gaston?
Yeah, add a couple Hamiltons to that weight. He told me today he's 360 now. But he carries it actually really well as you're going to carry 360 pounds. And not surprisingly, Georgia wants him as a tackle. He said the staff has compared him to Amarius Mims, who definitely had the height.
Come on, that's rude. He ain't.
I would know better than I would what weight Mims was at coming out of high school. But he looked good today. Again, kind of like we mentioned with CJ Wiley and with Travis Smith too. They played great competition, and I guess Westlake is 7A, 6A, 7A. So he's playing good competition on a weekly basis.
Pancake.
Georgia, South Carolina, Oregon, and Tennessee. I think Oregon is a major player in this. They're obviously the farthest one from home, but they're a real threat. But I think I like where Georgia's at now. Georgia's been on him for a long time. He's one of these guys who just doesn't have a lot of fanfare around his visits necessarily. I mean, Roddy, I guess all 4 of us have talked to him. He's a man of few words, but he just kind of just shows up on campus a lot. And I think this is a follow the visits kind of thing where it's going to be Georgia in the end. So we'll see, going into officials this summer, or next month. But I like where Georgia's at with Juan right now.
He did light up when he was talking about Oregon with me. And I mentioned him, or he mentioned him, and I made him go through each school and what he liked about each one. And he spoke highly of South Carolina. But when we got to Oregon, it was, oh yeah, he's got a huge grin. He's a very nice guy, very sweet. Not sweet on the field. You see him all these pancakes. He just, especially playing to the whistle, he does that. I feel bad for number 32 there.
I think a better comparison for him. I don't like the other comparison, but I think a better comparison for him would be Isaiah Wilson. I think coming in very
that's a much better one.
It carries his weight very well. Even at 360, Isaiah Wilson did the same. He always just looks like a man child. And then he is raw. You're not going to see him at left tackle at the next level. You're going to see him more at the right tackle. Even if he slides in, I think that Isaiah Wilson would be a better comparison for me, just from the fact that I think he is I don't think he's a blindside guy. I think he's a right tackle. He can develop, but I think he's very raw at this point in his career. Can work on his footwork, can work on his bend a little bit, but that's where I would put it. Isaiah Wilson came in, and I know that he was first round draft pick. So, but he was. It took a year. He was a redshirt freshman before he was able to step on the field, and I think the other guys we're talking about are, were basically fill-ins as a freshman. They were the sixth guy or the seventh guy and able to come in and play meaningful minutes. I don't think you're going to see meaningful minutes from him as a true freshman. I think it's going to take a year, but I do think he has a very high ceiling.
You can see Stacey Cyril just salivating, thinking, what can I do with this guy? Let me get him in shape. Let me work my techniques with him, and I can build him into a powerhouse. So I can definitely see it. Juan Gaston, definitely got to keep an eye on. Let's jump to the other side of the ball. Big defensive tackle. Kevin Wynn, 6'4", 319 pounds. Greene County, not too far away.
Yep.
Lance, you've known this guy for 47 years.
Yeah.
What's going on with Kevin Wynn?
Cover him for my main job, the newspaper, and I'd say he may be like 6'5". He may be like 6'5". I think he may be up to 330. Don't quote me on that, but he looked a little bit heavier. But man, he's all muscle. He's very twitchy when you watch him in person, and he is going to be visiting Georgia, I believe, the first visit or first weekend that official visits can happen. I believe it's May 31st through June 2nd. And I think he's real excited to get up to Georgia. I think he's got other visits to South Carolina. He's got one to Florida State, which I think is the biggest competitor right now, in Texas, which is kind of random. But Georgia's really kind of selling him on hey man, come stay home. You're 40 minutes from Athens, and let us develop you. And I think he's pretty underrated. Jed probably needs to bump him up a star. Is what he winked to me the last time I talked to him.
I love it. So keep an eye on Kevin Wynn. That's about as local as you can get.
And we're gonna be going to see him throw tomorrow at the state at the Class A Division II state track meet.
Yeah, I want to say he's shot put and discus.
Yep,
I think.
Yeah,
Zayden Walker would be there as well going in. I know he's going in shot put and discus too.
They're gonna be, imagine just like both of them compete. Like we're gonna be watching them compete like against each other.
Yeah,
really entertaining.
Yeah.
Hey, that should make for some good TikToks.
Yeah.
Hint, but don't get out there and get hit in the head with a discus. We don't have that sort of coverage. I want to ask you guys about Walter Mathis Jr. because we're talking defensive tackles with Kevin Wynn. I want to switch over to Walter Mathis. I don't know as much about him. Out of Cavalry Day, tell me about Walter Mathis Jr., where Georgia stands with him.
I went down to see him last week. He's kind of just popped up on my radar when I went down there. He's got a Georgia offer. I don't think he's ever been to Athens. From what I remember, he's in contact with the staff a lot, but I think he's trying to make it up for an official visit this year. I don't really see this one going Georgia's way, but he's another one of those in-state kids that is pretty talented and plays good competition at Cavalry Day. It's just Georgia's kind of, if it were to really pursue him, they haven't done it up to this point, and they'd be kind of picking up the slack for schools like Clemson and I believe LSU. He told me is one of his other top schools.
There's LSU again. And remember, LSU doesn't pay for players.
That's true.
Yeah.
We heard that the other day.
Must be
something about the Tigers.
Yeah.
What's that?
There must be something about the Tigers. Or Death Valley. I mean, either one.
Yeah.
Death Valley, they don't pay for it. Either Death Valley or either the Tiger mascot. Well, I don't know because we can't say that because there's Auburn. So it's got to be more Death Valley than it is the Tigers.
Yeah. I'm
kidding, Auburn fans. I don't want all your hate mail. Auburn Twitter. I do not screw around with Auburn Twitter. They will they'll come after you for a long time.
KJ Bolden. Never mind.
Dude,
Too soon.
My phone keeps popping off, when they tag me and stuff. So we can't have that. I want to get to the last guy we'll talk about is Justice Terry. I went to see him. We'll save him for last, but I want to run this idea by you guys because I think this is speaking of paying for players. Coach Don had mentioned this to me like the end of last week, and they had a big meeting on Monday, and then Tuesday we had Josh Millard, the former Georgia defensive lineman, on the show, and he runs a credit card processing company. So that's like, say you buy you buy $100 gift subscription to UGA Sports. It's $99.95. If you pay for the credit card, UGA Sports doesn't get $99.95. We get like 96. We lose like $3. That goes to the credit card, the people who are processing the credit card. So there you have someone who makes it so that your company can take credit cards. You have to pay them for that service. You can't just go to MasterCard and say, hey, they charge $100. Give me $100. Whoever's doing that for you gets a cut. That's what Josh Millard does. He provides companies to be able to take credit cards. And let's say he takes 3% of every transaction. What he's willing to do is to do it for cost for Georgia. Like say anybody that buys tickets and you pay for your credit card, or you give your donation, you do it with a credit card to get all your Sky Miles or to get your Marriott points or to get your travel, whatever. If you give $10,000 and then you buy 4 seats for $140 a piece times 6 games, you can put all that on your credit card. That starts to add up. And he says, look, that 3%, I'll just take like my cost, which is maybe 1% or 2%. The rest of that will go to Georgia's NIL program. And I started doing some, back of the napkin math. And I said, okay, let's say tickets are $140 a piece. Just, the range is wide. And you sold 50,000 of them, half the stadium, for credit cards. At 3%, 140, $2.80 or $2.40, something like that, times 50,000 seats, times 6 games a year, it's like $840,000 just on tickets. Now do concessions, now do the bookstore, now do all these other businesses out there. I'm thinking that Georgia, and yeah, people talk about the fact that if there's collective bargaining or they start sharing TV revenues, that'll change everything. It will change some of it. But there will still be kids who are saying, look, everybody on the team's getting paid X. I'm really good. If you want me to come here, I still need an NIL deal. They're not going to get rid of NIL. I'm thinking here's a way for nobody. The only person that will lose money in this would be Josh Millard. And he's not losing. He's still getting his cost out of it, but he's not taking the profit. And I think this could be a phenomenal idea. And I'm like, roll this out at Georgia Southern, Georgia State, anybody. So if you have a business out there, I think this is a way you could do it. Evan Grimes again coming through $50.
Yeah, my man Evan Grimes is about to earn he's earned himself a spot on a tea time with the donations.
Yeah, he's just donating more to the Jed Golf NIL Fund.
Jed, you make sure that goes to you, all right?
Yeah, no kidding. I need to have a talk with Rowdy.
We get 3%.
I mean, all it does is bump down the level of course I play at. I ain't good enough to play at a good course anyway, so it doesn't really matter to me. Go beat him.
Y'all need to follow Evan Grimes on Twitter. He's a riot. That is a funny dude. And I appreciate how much he's. I think he is a supporter because me and him, not exactly going back and forth, but he was very engaging, and we kind of talked. And I'm like, hey, come try our site, and he did, and he liked it. So, just shows that once you get behind the paywall at UGAsports.com and kind of go around with the fans there, it is a special place. But we also love our Twitter family and our YouTube family and our Facebook family, all our social media platforms. And Evan is a big part of it. Without him, we probably wouldn't have a show. It means a lot to us. Okay, last guy. Let me bring him up here and add him on. I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing me talk, but oops. All right. Justice Terry, I was down in Manchester not too long ago. Went to see him, and that was the same day that I said all the USC coaches showed up. And we had a good interview. It's on the same YouTube channel. You can also find it on our Facebook page where we spoke to Justice Terry about his flip from Georgia to USC. And we asked him why. And he's like, oh, well, I was thinking more about life after football. And the presentation USC had for his life after football apparently was better than what Georgia had. He said, yeah, I just started seeing myself there. He said he wants to be a barber, wants to get hair, wants to give back to Manchester. And they have a great business school out there at Southern Cal. They also have, he said, look, it's only about 9% of the people get in, and that means a lot to him. You know, it's a very tough school to get into. And I'm like, have you talked to Georgia? Have you talked to them about the Terry College of Business? Have you talked to them about their acceptance rate?
It's his last name, and he wants to major in business.
It's the Terry College.
He said in the interview you had with him, Rowdy, you asked him, like, if they talked to you about the Terry College. He's like, yeah, well, they mentioned it a little when I visited for G-Day, but, you know, they're really going to save all that for the official visit. And I could just picture, like, meeting with professors, meeting with the dean or whatever. Like, there's going to be a lot. I mean, that usually happens for guys on official visits anyway, but that's going to be a big – I mean, they might take him to a barber shop downtown and have him talk to those guys or something. I mean, you're gonna hit that angle hard over the 48 hours or whatever he's on campus here in a few weeks.
So I will say, little behind the scenes note, I used to do some catering stuff last summer. This is a second job before Roddy brought me on, and I worked some of the official visits, and on Saturday mornings in June, they all eat together, like breakfast, and then Todd Hartley would speak, or one of the coaches would speak, and then they would take them throughout campus. They do it in Terry College, so Justice is going to be up for an official visit, and that's how it's been the last 2 years. I used to work these catering events at a previous job, so you know that's something that he's going to get to tour more than likely.
And again, I'm not going to say that we saw Jason King say as they cut the games, they just offered him more money. I asked specifically about that. He said, look, honestly, NIL wasn't a part of it. I'm like, but was it though? And I mean, I pushed him. I pressed, and he said that it wasn't, and I'll take him at face value. But at the same time, that is definitely the vibe I got. The way the coaches were kind of hanging around, just waiting to talk to him and, you know, try to stay on him. The fact that they presented him with his business life after school, you know, and I'm like, this, it didn't sound like it was a scheme fit or a culture fit. It sounded like it was everything but the money. Here's the plan, you know, we'll buy you a barber shop or whatever. It just, again, I don't want to read anything into it. I got to take the kid at face value. You've all interviewed him. You've all spoken to him. Great kid to talk to, great representative of Manchester. He really wants to help. It's a small town, like 3,500 people. My father-in-law lives there. It's a wonderful small town, Georgia. Absolutely love it. He wants to give back to the community. I get that, but I guess what I was trying to get to was what makes USC's version better than Georgia's version. Mm-hmm. If you stay in town or you go to Georgia, you're going to learn from the Terry College of Business. You're going to have all the supporters in state who, especially in that small town, know that you went to the flagship. I mean, I wasn't presenting it that way. I just want to know, why was their sales pitch better than Georgia's sales pitch? And to your point, Jed, he basically said they haven't really got to that yet. They're going to do that on the official visit. And I'm like, okay. So to me, it's not over yet because I don't think Georgia has countered with their version of what his future can be. So I think they have a good sales pitch lined up, and we've seen them bring in Lance, like you were talking about, you know, over the Terry College of Business. We've seen anybody that says, "Hey, I want to do X." They'll bring in the dean of the law school. They'll bring in the dean of the Terry College of Business. They'll bring in the head of the education. The administration and the staff and the faculty
Well, you
all over. Jerry Moorhead will be there. You don't have the bloody president.
You've got the they bring in a guest speaker every Friday night. I don't know who the biggest alum of the Terry College of Business would be, but whoever it is, I wouldn't be shocked if they're on the old itinerary for Friday night on, I guess that'd be May 31st. So just every little, and a lot of these guys, even outside of Justice Terry, a lot of guys say they want to major in business or entrepreneurship or whatever. Like there's a lot of Terry type things among a lot of these guys we talked to begin with. So you hit a lot of extra boxes, but with a guy like Justice who is so focused on what that aspect of things could be, again, I don't know who the biggest Terry College, alum would be, but I'd bet some decent money they'd be in Athens that Friday night for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Jermaine King. Jermaine has also been, I've known Jermaine, 20 years, 30. Known Jermaine a long time. He's worked for the university. Jermaine's a great guy. You'll never meet anybody that works harder than Jermaine. He says he could intern at Wilson's barbershop downtown. Gives me the idea. I could see Georgia saying, look, we'll build you a barbershop here. You can give haircut, because he gives haircuts to his teammates.
Yeah.
Like $10, $20. Says, look, you can open up a $30 a head, $50 a head barbershop here in the butt smear building, the football facilities. We got a barbershop for you. And we'll make it so that Wilson's barbershop opens up a second location, Justice's shop in downtown Manchester, and we got you covered. So, I mean, they're going to have a plan for him, which brings me to the final question of the show. Trent, where does he wind up?
Oh, I think he wanted to Georgia, and I've said this since the beginning. Kirby Smart's never going to empty his clip on one shot. I mean, like that's on one trip, and I think that's what USC went all in. And USC fans don't like me very much right now, but they went all in on a lot of guys, and I think it was, and I mentioned I think it's smart because there's a lot of stuff that's unexpected. In the fall, moving conferences, flying across the country week after week and having to battle on the Big Ten as the line of scrimmage. So I think the season results are kind of unexpected. And for them to go all in right now is smart to try to get as many guys, try to land as many transfer portal guys, and they've landed some, land as many guys in this class and just try to hold on. And then I think Kirby's more of a, hey, we're going to be in it at the end. I'm going to close it. And he doesn't have to put all his eggs in a basket in the spring. And I think you'll see that, like you said, Terry was committed to Georgia for 12 months and hasn't had that spill yet over a business spill, what he wants to major in. They're not going to throw it all at him at the beginning. Their goal is the long run. Their goal is to land him on signing day, not to land him in February or land him 2 years before signing day. So I think you'll see him get on campus, and he's going to be a guy like we mentioned in the past, KJ Bolden and Terry Godwin a couple of years ago, who Georgia just gets on campus over and over and over and over and over, and that relationship just keeps building, and they eventually are able to secure him at the end of the day. Or
you're planning on a year from now. Hey, go out there, see how it works out for you. If it doesn't, so. Trey, where to get the barbershop? Go to hell, Trey. How do you know when I'm going to the barber? I ain't got no hair. I have to ask Jed about barbershop and all the other guys with hair. No, it's but very fun young man to talk to, and I'm with you. Georgia has not spent all their bullets in that battle, and USC is going to keep fighting for them. Like I said, they brought there were 4 guys who I knew were USC coaches. There was another guy out there. I'm not sure if he was one or not, or maybe he was at Manchester High School. They have a very young head coach at Manchester, bright guy, fun to talk to. He is that whole town is excited about justice, and that whole town is very Bulldog centered. So it'll be very much fun to see how that works out.
One thing I think that USC has been selling, and I'm not sure, but it's basically we brought in a new defensive staff. We're gonna, it's gonna be a change. We're gonna be able to line up on the line of scrimmage. But I think a lot of that takes time because it's more of a culture thing. The way they've been the past couple of years is they've had athletes, they've had players, but they haven't been. I guess in practice they don't work their butts off, and it's kind of like Bloody Tuesdays and stuff like that. It's a culture issue, and I think that's going to take time to fix. And it's not just going to be, hey, we're going to wait to see what we are next year. And I think that's what they're selling. They've obviously sold their fan base on that, but I do think it's going to take time, and I think you're going to see results on the field this fall not be the change that they're kind of selling on the recruiting trail, because it is going to take some.
Yeah. See, man, you're just taking off the USC fans all over again. You just can't stop trolling them.
Just wait till I pull up Twitter, and they're all going to be in my mentions after this.
All right. So, we all need to go fight on Twitter now. I got to go fight with Auburn fans. You can go fight with USC. Jed, you need to go fix the rankings that you've screwed up. And
Jed's going to get a tea time. He just got some money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Weekend looks nice. So
yeah.
we'll still see what we got going for Saturday.
We will be back next Monday because a bunch of these guys are going to see the state track championships, where a lot of Georgia targets are competing. We mentioned some of the guys that will be throwing. We'll mention some of the guys who are going to be running. So we will be out and about all over the state to talk to some of those guys, and we will have a show on Monday where we talk about that. Plus, we start previewing some of the big upcoming visits. So stick around for Monday's show. You're absolutely going to love it because there'll be a lot to talk about. And that is it for tonight. So we will see you later. For Jed May, Lance McCurley, and Trent Smallwood, I'm Rodney Bullsey. We'll see you later.